We continue now with our series, The History of the New Coral Gables Museum. Last month we showed you how the idea evolved to turn the city's municipal building into a cultural center. This month, the logistics of how to make that happen.
We are thrilled, as you can imagine. I know we're all thrilled to be here today for this momentous event. And the entire tent is filled with dignitaries and representing great segments of the history of this city and people who work to preserve it.
Good things come to those who wait. This is really our museum. It's a museum that's going to celebrate our history, the civic arts in Coral Gables, and I think the mayor said it best. It's going to celebrate and contain the soul of the city.
16 years after initial talks, the dream finally materializes. The groundbreaking ceremony signals the beginning of the municipal building's new lease on life. It had been the proud home of the city's police and fire stations and that of several other departments, but now it would take on a different function, one it had never attempted before. But unlike other museums, this 1939 structure and all the history within its coral rock walls would be considered the largest object in the collection, and so began the renovation. Throughout the years and depending on its function at the time, several walls were added to the building. Construction workers slowly brought back the original large open spaces.
And even though the building had been cut up over time and smaller offices were put into these large rooms, it had been compartmentalized. When we cleared the building of these smaller subdivisions, then the larger rooms came back. And those open rooms are very well suited for display, exhibition, handling of large numbers of people. So in that sense, we were fortunate that the original use and the new use had many of the same interior requirements and dimensions. And if you walk into the lobby now, the minute you walk in, you look out again into the garden through two beautiful arched windows. So that sense of light and connectedness to the out of doors was part of the original building. What we lost in the lobby was the original Cuban tile floor, because over the years they had glued so many surfaces to it, carpets, tiles, and so on, that the glue had ruined that tile.
But as the demolition continued, crews did make some special discoveries, treasures hidden away for decades finally resurfacing.
For example, this floor right here, we pulled up the carpet as gingerly as possible, and we found some beautiful old historical Cuban tile underneath and the baseboard as well. And then when we took the ceiling down, long and behold, here's this grand room in here with very tall ceilings and arched windows that the architect, I believe, we're going to restore this to original condition.
And so we redesigned that space to keep the open nature of it, liberating the windows. There was a drop acoustical ceiling, you couldn't see the top of the arch windows. So those kinds of things were gifts that we found along the way.
And there were several more instances where restoration was possible.
The Cuban tile, like I said, was painted over in yellow. We're bringing back its natural beauty. This is priceless. These things here are priceless. And it would have been very easy to just put a drywall over it and let's move on. But we'd be showing disrespect to this building.
As preservation efforts continued, other crews worked on modernizing the building for its new use. From new plumbing to new windows, the entire building was examined, and while careful detail was given to the interior, equally as important was caring for the exterior.
It was very rewarding for me to work on the historic building, and in particular to tend to the stone, to the restoration and conservation of the stone.
Where it was impossible to restore, skilled tradesmen carefully mimicked the coral rock patterns by hand. The walls were pressure cleaned and special attention was placed on the preservation of natural surfaces.
There had been water infiltration through the surfaces of the stone. Coral stone is very porous. We parged the surface of the stone with a lime slurry, the chemical component of which was very similar to the stone, and it had certain agents in it that repelled water intrusion but were completely organic and they're breathable. I think the building is an amazing building that way because it's a stylistic hybrid. It has a kind of, you can read it like you read a story or a book, so it has a narrative. And then it has an unquestionable quality of beauty that resonates with people, which is why it's been so loved over the years.
But despite the enormous support from the community on this venture, the Coral Gables Museum did encounter some issues. The gallery space available in the original building would have made this the smallest museum in the region, limiting the scale of exhibitions. With budget restrictions, building a new, large gallery space was an unattainable dream. And then there was Robert Fuel.
Let me stop and say that every project has an angel, and clearly Mr. Fuel is the angel of this new space.
And we'll be right back.